Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. We are in the aftermath of the great naval battle from last episode as we get things organized up here. Yeah, we don't have any real port facilities. I don't think we have any do we have supplies coming to here? Yes, we do. Okay, we already do. That's why I can't find Hilo on the city. Okay. Well, we're fighting a Great World War II, but in our real lives, the war drums beat again. We are preparing for wars, wars, wars. The Democrats are calling for wars, wars, wars. They want war, war, war. It gets frustrating after a while. Okay, you're too far away for that. You are here, so you should probably switch to that one. Can we have Indian National Army here? Sort of a local. Only one slot because of the way it's set up. But okay. It's through the Thai group. I don't know. Okay. Yeah. War, war, war. I don't know if most international viewers, or even most American viewers, we do have some, I almost said a great many, but some people that very much disagree with my well, whether it's politics or views or something else. Now, they all seem to appreciate that I'm an informed and reasonably thoughtful person, though they, just disagree with me. But, they want, the Democrats in power in America. But if you look at it historically, it's the Democrats that take America to war much more than the Republicans ever have. And really, the Democrats' wars are always the much bigger wars. George Bush the Elder got us in war with Saddam Hussein. Okay, their war lasted for a little while there, but the ground war, 4 days, and it was over. And we came home. Yeah, I know his son was a nation builder, but that was partially because the Democrats were cheering on the nation building stuff going on. But yeah, war, war, war. The Democrats want war with Russia, war with Russia. That's all we're hearing in America is war with Russia. They want us to get us in a war with Russia here. And they want war with Saudi Arabia, war with Saudi Arabia, war with Saudi Arabia. Khashoggi's been killed. We must go to war with Saudi Arabia because Khashoggi's been killed. Yeah, I'm sick of going to all these wars that the Democrats want to do. Okay, well, we no longer need naval strikes, so let's ground attack there. Okay, that's... So yeah, I just get a little frustrated with some of it at times. Okay, well, let's attach to a HQ. Why don't we do that? Your headquarters is way too far away. Okay, yeah, you might as well move forward. I'm not, as you can, long-time viewers know, I'm not against the idea of going to war when needed. It's just, gets overly much at times. Hillary Clinton wanted war with Gaddafi. War with Gaddafi. I came, I saw, we conquered, or whatever she said after that one. How did that one work out? Gaddafi was evil and mean. Yes, he was. Evil, mean, and any other bad thing you want to say about him. A nut job. Okay. I'm sitting here thinking while I'm doing this. Maintenance work, if you will. Getting these units back to sort of where they need to be to go after various surface units, mostly. Commonwealth. Okay, you're pretty beat up. How are we for slots? Okay, 18 there. Yeah, I can do 10. Yeah, it's a little over much. Okay, units here. Okay, you guys come down here. Let's get, well, don't know how much air intercept we'll have. No, let's come down here, I think. Try and get all of the, oh, wrong place to click. When it looks like there's going to be a war, you know, a war looks inevitable. And then you want to try to shorten it. Yeah, okay. And how do you know when a war is inevitable? Well, you don't always know, but let's give two distinct cases here. One country comes out and says repeatedly, "Death to America, death to America, death to America." And another one is, "Hey, we like America, we like America, we want to buy your weapons." Okay. And maybe both of these places are evil bastards of a country. Maybe they're both equally evil bastards of a country. And they both may be exporting terrorism. You know, and whether some might be more as official policy, others just might be more as a auxiliary element of society. Who should we worry about the most? Now, maybe we need to keep our eyes on the terrorists in both countries equally. Not trying to minimize and just say, oh, one's good and one's bad, or one's doing it, we'll let them do it, and the other one we won't. But where do we think the war is likely? The real war? Well, yeah. So would that be Iran, who, you know, does Death to America as like its national anthem, or whatever you want to sort of call it? Or would that be Saudi Arabia? You know, both seems to, like, you know, kill gay people just because, hey, they're gay, so we need to kill them. You know, So, you know, I'm not like trying to make a value judgment as in which is the nicer country or okay, you guys come to here, I think. Oh, wait a minute. No. Stop. They're not on board yet. Boy, I almost did that. Almost messed that up. Gotta get these guys on board. It's taking forever. But hey, at least this talk I've been pretty successful at sort of keeping playing and doing stuff. Okay, once you get there, we'll see about attacking there. Let's see how Europe is doing. Uh-oh. Okay, we've lost that. Yeah, this is... Okay, stop your patrol searching, come here. Save. These vessels are just been taking too much of a pounding, and I kept thinking, oh. And here again. Okay, well... Let's grab a few more of these guys. Well, you can just sort of stop doing your thing. Stop doing your thing. Okay, you're in good shape. So you guys come over here. I think the good shape will come back and naval strike on some of these units out here. Okay, we've been needing to. I've just been, of course... Okay, go back into port. We don't need to lose you. I've definitely had you guys out and wanted you out to sort of soak up some damage, deal with some units, but I wanted that air power to also be doing naval strikes in the area so that hopefully you wear down at a relatively low cost. Enemy units, and then let's grab a no. Where's wrong place to click. Yeah, you guys can come back. Yeah, I think here. You know, so I don't think you would think anything I'm saying is like defending Saudi Arabia as the good guys, or we should let them get away with anything they want to do, you know. But why isn't it coming over here a bit more? I don't know when it's not showing up in the green element there, whether it's just a display problem or an actual it isn't going to go there. I just don't know. Okay, we'll let you get a little more organized and repaired. Okay, you're in good shape, but not maybe the best organized. So let's come up here and start naval striking to some degree. You need to air intercept. If you see enemy air, go for it. Take it down. You know, like from a carrier or something. And, you know, obviously most of the guys who did the 9/11 attacks were Saudi. Osama bin Laden was a Saudi, and the Wahhabist sects are, in my opinion, spreading poison. I really believe the Wahhabists basically do spread poison. Okay, you're not doing good. You stop. You come here, so we'll hit them from 3 provinces at once. And so I'm in no way saying they're the good guys. And there, you know, I was talking to a Jordanian in person the other day who lives now in the U.S. So, you know, he got through university in Jordan, and he was telling me a bit about how hard it is to get through university in Jordan, and that not necessarily that it's extra hard classes or anything. It just you've got to be in a high academic percentile to sort of get through the academic system to get that high level of a situation in that, and he did as a civil engineer. So yeah, talking to about it, but he was very much with sort of this. I think you're probably. Where is that? Oh, it's over here. Why is your CAG? I don't know. I don't know. You know, the U.S. should be, you know, for the people and not these corrupt governments. Blah 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 blah. He's also a university professor. Oh, we need... Do we have supplies coming in here at all? I'm seeing out of supply. Oh, no, we don't. So we need supplies. Okay. We already have some more. Okay. What would be the best... here, presumably at level 2. Can't see where the supply symbol is, but we'll come to there. That is... Buna. And you know, so he's, you know, that we shouldn't, the US government shouldn't be for corrupt governments and things. They should be doing, you know, supporting the good, you know, the people and blah 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 blah. Well, governments need to interact with other governments. Governments can't just, oh, well, this is now the main supply port for this group, so let's shift it from here. Where WeWack. Okay, let's cancel the WeWack. No, cancel. You know, can't just like go, oh, well, who cares what the government is doing? Let's, you know, send aid straight to the people of Saudi Arabia. Or something like that. I mean, I guess we could mail out checks or do electronic transfers to individuals' bank accounts or something. You know, yeah, we could theoretically do some of that. But in a practical sense, governments have to deal with governments. There just really isn't a way around that. I'm sorry, there isn't. So... And however much you want to deal with moral and good governments out there, okay, the primary responsibility of government, of any government anywhere on the planet, is to look out after the interests of its people, okay? That is the primary responsibility of a government, is to look out after the interests of its people. Now, and I'm going to diverge a little bit more. Who are its people? Okay. And this is going to go back to Aristotle. I'm going to use the Aristotelian viewpoint. Of the two, Aristotle and Plato, I'm much more Aristotelian, much more into Aristotle. Okay. A tyranny is government by one person. Okay, a tyranny is government by one person for the benefits of that one person. Okay? That is the short definition of a tyrant. And a tyrant at the time wasn't, oh, he's a tyrant. No, it's like, oh, he's a tyrant. That was like a form of sort of government, if you will. People called themselves a tyrant. And not like, ooh, I'm the badass tyrant. No, he's the tyrant. It didn't have initially a negative pejorative viewpoint. Okay. A monarchy is government by one person for the benefit of all of the nation. Not all of the people in the world, not everybody everywhere, but of all the people in the nation. Okay. For the citizenry, because they would acknowledge that there were slaves and other people of status that weren't part of the national element. But so you have a tyrant and a monarch. An oligarchy is government by the few for the benefit of the few. Okay? Now, some of these terms get changed over time, and I'm sure he didn't use some of these terms because they are sort of a bit more based, I think, in Latin, and he spoke Greek, and there's some translations and, whatever. But you get my meaning, just the basic English understandings of the word. An aristocracy isn't, in this term, a group of people born with a certain title, but aristocracy is a government by the few for the benefit of all. Okay. A demosocracy, a democracy, is government by the majority for the benefits of the majority. Okay. Majority rules, which I was taught that in school as being a good thing. The majority rules. So they get to trample upon the rights of an individual who doesn't agree with the majority. And this is sort of where Plato sort of falls apart on his system, because the previous four levels of government were sort of duopolies. There was the good and the bad form of the government. Aristotle didn't believe that there was a good democracy. What he believed was that the good form of popular representation, if you will, was a republic. Again, that is a res publica, and that would be entirely a Latin form, so he wouldn't have used a republic, because he would have been probably saying something with a polis. Polis is city, as opposed to res publica, Latin and whatnot. I'm sure I'm getting some of this wrong, people, either in my Greek or my Latin, and I'm messing some stuff up. But he believed in a republic, and his republic was not. This isn't Plato's republic. This is. See, I don't like. Plato was a totalitarian. If you look at Plato's republic, the ideal, it was a totalitarian society. Totalitarianism wasn't coined by him, it was coined by Mussolini as a positive form of government. But if we look back at Plato and his republic, and he even tried to, under experiment that went horribly wrong with real people's lives, tried to form his republic. But this isn't Plato's republic, this is Aristotle's republic. Aristotle believed in the republic, which would be a mix of an aristocracy and a democracy, in that you would have aristocratic elements, the few, that would be determined by some means, could be hereditary, could be sort of elected into a senate or something else, but these people, this aristocracy, might be like your elected senator, and then you're a senator for life. Not like the senator for life for California, just you're a senator for life. And so as you whether you have a fixed number of senators, 50, 100, 10,000, I don't know, You have a fixed number, or just simply when somebody deserves it, you elevate him to the Senate. And so you could do it. And so if maybe the like the House of Representatives, maybe in one of his forms of government, you might say the House of Representatives would periodically elect senators. And so, so they're in there for life. And so you may have a lunatic or a communist. I guess they're the same thing, but a specific type of lunatic communist in there. But if you don't put too many people into the Senate, one or two lunatics won't be a problem because they'll just be lunatics and the rest of the Senate will do well. And so this is sort of a body that is meant to look out for the benefit, to keep swings of popularity from dominating the minority. So that, Russia, 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 and so somebody comes out and shouts, Russia, 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 and then all the people in America run around and looking for a Russian to stab them to death. Keep that kind of thing from happening, because that's what happened back in the Greek city-states and things like that. Somebody would come out and, say, Persia, 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 and then out come the daggers and they'd stab the Persian merchants or something, So believed in a mixed form of government. And so it would be these two groups of people, because Aristotle knew that monarchs versus tyrants, you don't necessarily know what you're going to get, because if you do it sort of like, shall we say, Western European hereditary monarch, you don't know what the eldest son is going to believe. Or if you do a monarchy sort of like in Poland, in which they're elected for life, but they're elected, you don't necessarily know how they're, they may have been the most shining example of wonderful personality and looking out for everybody until they get into power, and then they may, become a tyrant. You don't know what you're going to get. And he recognizes that. You don't know what you're going to get. And he also recognized that aristocracies could become oligarchies or whatever, and that they're looking out for the power of their group of people. And, so he recognizes that these governments have flaws, because he also recognizes, unlike Plato, who believes that there are some people with golden souls and some people with silver souls, and then there's the rest that just have base metal souls, the corrupt people. And somehow he was going to have a test or ability or hereditary or whatever, that the golden souled people were going to rule and the silver souled people were going to enforce that rule, and then all the rest of us base metal people would just sort of live under their benevolent totalitarian system. But Aristotle knew that, things can go wrong. So he wanted to have a system of checks and balances. And these are the people that primarily that the founding fathers of America, them old guys with wigs and, whatnot, actually knew all of this stuff and came up with our constitutional federal republic, in which we have Supreme Court justices. They're sort of elected by the Senate. I mean, they're appointed by the president, but they're sort of elected by Senate, and they're on there for life. But we don't say in the Constitution how many there are. There is nothing that says that there's 7, 9, 10, 50, 100, 1,000. We could have 1,000. You could put 1,000 guys up there, and so each case is heard and then voted on by 1,000 judges. You could do that under our Constitution. It'd just be crazy, but hey, you could do that. So yeah, and so they sort of come up with this system, and so, like I say, so like North Korea is run for the benefit of Kim Jong-un. I think I got the name right, as opposed to Kim Il-sung, which I believe was his father, whatever. So the one thing the nation is supposed to do is look out for the benefit of its people, whether that's the one person who counts in North Korea, or whether it's the the citizenry of a nation as a whole, or what? It's supposed to look out for those people. Okay, that's it. It's one job, one clear-cut job, is to look out for them, is to protect them. Okay, now, Saudi Arabia spreads poison out into the world, most assuredly. They spend hundreds of millions on mosques that spread Wahhabist Islam. Not Sufi Islamism, not Shiite Islamism, and there's probably some other sects and groups that I don't know and can't pull off the top of my head. I don't know if there's a Sufism, I think is some of the more moderate types. I don't know if there's a name for a semi-westernized Muslim Muslim clerics that believe in secular government, not that secular church or mosques, but secular government or something. I don't know, but and so, you know, they spread this Wahhabism out to other countries, including the U.S. So yeah, they're spreading poison, and through that whole system, you have Osama bin Laden and other people that end up doing 9/11 terror attacks. But you also have Iran, who takes hostages for a long time, gets a lot of Americans killed, attacks the Marine barracks in Lebanon, which was a peacekeeping mission after all. I think they're the ones, or was it maybe Osama bin Laden's group that did the Khobar Towers attacks in Saudi Arabia. But, and you have, you know, a lot of bad things ongoing, many acts of war by Iran against the United States. Okay, so I think I've painted the picture of two bad governments. Both governments really don't mean America well. Okay, they really don't, because whether the king of Salman bin Saud or whatever, the king of Saudi Arabia, or this new MBS, the crown prince, whether they personally want to see America destroyed or not, I don't know. But their system has a messianic, sort of meaning spreading of the word of Islam, of Wahhabism, that they want to spread to everywhere in the world. And by doing that, they would, in essence, ultimately destroy America over time if we paid attention and converted to their version of Islam. But even most of the people that are spreading that message and the poison into America really don't believe, I don't know, maybe they don't believe they could, but I don't think really believe that it should be done, most of them, that it should be done by tanks driving across borders, or terrorist attacks, or they believe in the hearts and minds campaign. Now, in the sort of final analysis, they're going to rule in a theocracy, and people who don't comply will be either imprisoned or killed or whatever. But they don't necessarily want, you know, world Islamic revolution, you know, we're carrying the torches and we're burning down the enemy's cities. They want to do it insidiously through hearts and minds. And again, that's a danger, and we should combat that. But, and maybe deny, you know, I'm not saying deny mosques being built, but maybe deny these organizations funded by certain groups, and as we identify these groups, funded by them, and seize the property and shut them down. And so it's not a freedom of religion thing, it's a, because again, if it's local people doing it, it's different than sending clerics from Saudi Arabia or whatever, keep certain organizations from doing it, you know, Saudi-based organizations from doing it, you know, and that kind of thing. And so that, you know, we may have ways to combat it without violating the First Amendment of freedom of religion. But freedom of religion doesn't mean freedom of foreign organizations, even if they're religious, but foreign organizations from operating and funding activities within America. See, that's sort of the key thing. And that could be foreigners, even foreigners living here don't have the right, because we can always say goodbye to you because you're a foreigner, don't have the right, like they don't have the right to put money into a political campaign unless it's for the Democrats. So if you're Chinese or some other group and you're giving money to the Democrats, that's perfectly legit. But you can't do it to any of the other political parties. Even on the left, you can only do it to give it to the Democrats. But you don't have the rights to give money in for political things if you're a foreigner, even if you're living here. So, we could say that, foreign organizations or individuals funding activities can be banned if we wish to. And so that would be, I think, past the smell test of the American Constitution, because we're dealing with foreign, not domestic kind of thing. So yeah, the Saudis are bad. Saudi Arabia is bad. I've always known it to be bad. When I was growing up and before the fall of the Soviet Union, they were a geopolitical ally in our fight against Soviet expansionism. And at that time, because because I don't know exactly when did Pakistani get nukes, but they may have had them at some point there. But mostly Muslim nations did not have nuclear weapons, so I did not fear nuclear strikes or any real military strikes. Sure, a terrorist attack could happen, and I did, trust me, know of Islamic radicalists moving in the Middle East and doing very bad things during the Cold War. But but our main opponents had nuclear missiles, the Soviet Union, so they were an ally of convenience. Now we have a war ongoing right now, over control of this part of the world. There was was it the Houthis? Something with an H. It was up in this part of Yemen that had been part of northern Yemen as opposed to southern Yemen, but or whatever. But after their unification, largely peaceful, they sort of rebelled, and they had a bunch of arms and equipment and money that started this whole thing, funded by Iran. Now Saudi Arabia is doing a ham-fisted counter war. So I remember watching a documentary about a woman traveling around in the Middle East, Western woman, and she was, I think, in Aden, in the city of Aden, but maybe it was up in Sana'a. I'm not sure where right now. But cool, we got pictures for both of those. And the family that she was staying with, the father was a member of the government at some level, not maybe super high, but in the government. And he during filming this sort of documentary trip kind of thing, he gets killed while she's not necessarily, like, it wasn't at home while she was at home at the house, but she was living in their house while this government guy gets killed, and this is in the early stages. So this is definitely a military destabilization by Iran, and and various, including Western anti-piracy patrols, have stopped arms shipments that were being smuggled in, that intelligence knew that they had loaded on board ship, and they'd come around here and like, hey, stop and inspect this ship here. Oops, there's arms, all kinds of arms, and they knew it was going to here, and they knew it come from Iran. So the local legitimate, shall we say, Yemen government has not been able to effectively combat this group. So Saudi Arabia has entered into the war, and they're doing it with a big axe, as opposed to doing it with a scalpel. So yeah, they blow up school buses full of children, and American weapons are blowing up school buses full of children. And Iranian weapons are going into schools and mowing down the little kiddies at school and other very bad things. I mean, don't think that the other side, that the U.S. media isn't covering, isn't doing even more criminal activities, more bad activities. And they are firmly allied to the Iranian faction here. And so Saudi Arabia is fighting there. Iran supports Hamas, which is controlling Gaza, and wants to, control more. And they're controlling Hezbollah and wants to control all of Syria through Assad, along with Russia, sort of a joint thing. And they have more or less control over the southern Shias down here, and now have units, including the southern Shia units as well as Iranian units, fighting ISIS and whatnot up here. Actually, alongside of the Americans that are fighting alongside of the Iranians up here, but they're trying to impose their will on Iraq. And so Saudi Arabia is feeling surrounded. So there's a war going on between, they're not launching missiles directly at each other. Remember, Iraq and Iran had been launching missiles and having World War I style trench warfare with each other. And Iran is just trying to expand out. Okay, people? So, what do we do? Khashoggi's killed. This country's barbaric. Do we just let Iran win? Do we let Iran win and invade and kill them all? What the hell do we do, people? Tell me, what do we do about Khashoggi and these other bad actions that Saudi Arabia does? I don't think it was coming directly known out of Saudi Arabian government pockets, but definitely high up people in the nebulous Saudi government, meaning because it's a personal royal family, and there's definitely, shall we say, black sheep that would make that MBS guy look pretty civilized. There are, some Osama bin Laden's family wasn't that well connected, but there's other more connected groups that are pretty dark and pretty whatnot. That definitely funded and did the 9/11 attacks. What do we do? What do we do about Saudi Arabia and Iran? If Saudi Arabia falls, the kingdom of Saud falls, doesn't mean that they're going to be, oh, thank God, now the hippies are now in charge and it's all peace, love, and flower power, and just because we now give them democracy, they're all going to vote Democratic in their elections, and they're going to vote for, to stop global warming because they're already too hot in Saudi Arabia. It doesn't mean that that's what's going to be the alternative. And I don't know if the U.S. has the power sort of assassination. Now, maybe you're thinking that we should go back into assassination games like we sort of were with Gaddafi, and assassinated MBS, the Crown Prince, so that, we just made sure that he doesn't become the actual total power in Saudi Arabia by assassinating him. But that's what they complained after we killed Mossadegh in Iran and reaffirmed the Shah's rule in Iran. Is that what you want, people? I would love to hear, whether from the right or the left, because you also have Lindsey Graham out wanting a war now. He's, if there's a war out there, Lindsey Graham wants to be in it. Doesn't matter. There's a war somewhere. He wants to be in it. America should pick a side and join the war, wherever it is. Pick the best side and be in it. You can tell I don't like that, but so yeah, what do we do about Saudi Arabia? Oh, we'll block the arms shipment. Teach them a lesson. Block the arms shipment. Does that mean they're going to fall to Iran? No. Does that mean they're going to be really weaker than they are? Maybe not. But if U.S. arms becomes unreliable to Saudi Arabia, okay, please understand this. A basic statement of fact. If U.S. arms become unreliable to Saudi Arabia will make other arrangements long term, okay? Israel had a really sweet deal going with France for a long time. They were very much hooked into the Mirage and other French jets. It was a very good sales of very high-end weapons for the French government, for the French arms industry, so that means for France, selling to a very active military that was reasonably reliable in keeping secrets from falling into national enemies, the communists or whoever. So they could have either first-rate or near first-rate weapons that you could give to them, and you weren't worried that enemies were going to get a good look at them or whatnot. And they could go be tested in combat, and so there was all of that going on, and that was really good for Israel. Well, I think it was was it the post-Suez thing or 73 or one of them, I forget which. French arms, for political and other national reasons, becomes unreliable to Israel. Israel immediately and finally, as in never again, doesn't buy another single French jet. Okay, I'm sure they get spare parts and whatnot to keep their aging fleet as long as they can, but they do a combination of switch more and more to Americans and come up with domestic fighter jets, in which the Israelis now make domestic fighter jets, because Israel learned, they were taught the lessons of national survivability. They were taught that by a person named Adolf Hitler. Okay, they have had that lesson. Israel will not fall. Israel will do whatever it takes not to fall. That could be nuke very large populations of non-Israelis, because they will not fall. They will nuke Tehran. They will nuke whoever. They will nuke anybody that they think they need to. Now, if they don't need to nuke anybody, so far they haven't, they won't nuke anybody. But if Iran is getting too close to having real nukes, they're going to start striking Iran. Whether that means with their nuclear weapons or with conventional weapons or whatnot, they will start doing that. Okay, so they have learned the lessons that their national survivability will not be a question. They will do whatever it takes to survive. And so they have developed, because of international sanctions and other things, and even though they think the U.S. is a reliable ally, the U.S. is somewhat dependent on, pressure, or vulnerable to pressures to it. So they have gone and done domestic arms development, jets, all kinds of weapon systems, tanks, all that kind of stuff, with a generally smaller national budget than Saudi Arabia. So if Saudi Arabia believes its national survival, the House of Saud, if U.S. arms become an unreliable thing, they will do one of two things, or maybe both, but they will either start a domestic arms program. They have the money to get the people trained to start developing things. They have the money to do that. I don't know how long it would be. They have the money to go to a somebody just followed me on Twitch, even though I'm not streaming. They have the money to go to somebody like GE or whatever to get jet engines actually fully being produced in Saudi Arabia, get the production. And so they very well may decide to do that. The other thing is they will look for another reliable arms producer, and probably at least do that in the short term, as whether they also decide to do a long-term arms production facility or not, I don't know if they would. They're quite capable of it, where say Yemen is not a country that has either the industrial base, the knowledge base, or the economic base to even start that kind of thing. So that they're dependent on anybody else. So Saudi Arabia will look for another arms supplier, and they will very privately go in and talk to them and say it's not that the tank or the aircraft costs 10 million or 12 million per aircraft or whatever, or tank or something. It's, you've got to make, if we're going to start getting your tanks, you've got to be a reliable arms supplier. None of this, oh, there's, protests against supplying arms to Saudi Arabia, we can't send you. No, if you want the business, you better be a reliable one. Okay? So Saudi Arabia will look for somewhere else. Russia is probably out of it, though they might buy some packages short term from Russia, but they're probably out because they're too much already in bed with Assad and Iran, though maybe Russia would be just happy to sell it no matter what sides. Maybe there would be enough of the calculation they wouldn't care and they'd sell to both sides. China does not care your domestic policies. Okay? You can murder all of your population and just be the one guy left, and they're happily and pleased by it. So they would be a reliable arms seller. Chinese weapons are getting better and better. They could be a reliable arms seller. Another one actually would be India. They're stepping up more and more, and they're developing the industrial base, and they would love the capital of Saudi investment in arms because they're looking at possible conflicts with China and other things, and they want to be the great power. And I talked to Hi Azads if you're watching this. They want to be the great power in the Indian Ocean. I don't think any of the Indian governmental officials, I'm not talking about some, well, whether they're lunatics or thoughtful people, either way, there may be some, somewhere in something that thinks they should become, the superpower of the world. I don't think any halfway responsible, halfway likely to come to power person ever thinks that India, because its population is scheduled in about another 10 or 20 years to outpace China's population, which is not necessarily a good thing, because the future doesn't need huge numbers of people because of automation and such, but their population is going to get bigger than China, and I think they have some advantages over China. They have some disadvantages, and I'm not going to go into all of them here and now, and I'm sure I would skip and miss and get some wrong, but they can move it. They could move into being an industrial powerhouse, and they can move into being a regional great power. The Indian Ocean. I don't know if their Navy would ever be able to defeat the U.S. Navy, though they might be able to have enough of a fleet that could fight the local American normal fleet that's sitting over here, a carrier group or something like that. But even they know that as long as America keeps its carrier levels and whatnot up, even if we're not sending out ICBMs, but just fighting for controls of the seas and whatever, they sort of know that America is going to be able to win if it comes down to it. But they want to be the power for everything but America in this. And from Azad was saying that India may be sort of working that zones of control out with China now. I'm a little more skeptical because of some of the basing and whatever that China's doing to secure down to here. I think there's more likely to become conflicts, as well as China has still been pushing into Bhutan. I haven't really been paying attention the last 6 months or so, but a year ago China was building a road to the point that into what Bhutan thinks is its territory. China was saying it's its territory, and India quickly sort of rushed, I think mostly police type units, but rushed military personnel and basically signaled that if you push into Bhutan, you're going to get shot back at by India. So it sort of stopped, at least temporarily, China's push into Bhutan, because Bhutan doesn't want any connection to China north of it. Meaning, they don't want a railroad, they don't want a road, they don't want any connection to China. They look at China as its, because of what they've done in Tibet and other things, as its biggest national foe. Obviously, its other national foe well, sort of localized foe is that there was a bunch of people that, and there's different races in Bhutan that are accepted as Bhutanese. There isn't a single race. There isn't even a single language. There's several languages in there. But there was one group that was sort of in the lower border regions that had been there for some time, but is more ethnically or linguistically or whatever connected to Nepal. That Bhutan militarily or violently kicked them out. Some died, but in the violence, but mostly just kicked them out, and they're sort of living in camps along the Indian border here. And because they don't have any national rights in Nepal or India because they're not their citizens, but they're ethnically sort of Nepalese, I think. But Bhutan doesn't recognize them because they saw them as sort of a non-violent but invading force that was culturally too different for them and whatnot. But so they're a bit of a problem, and so I guess the other potential threat to Bhutan is India. Bangladesh is down here but doesn't connect. But they see India really as the less likely threat compared to China. And India is concerned because it doesn't want Chinese spread influence into it. Because I think this was Sikkim up here. And there were other sort of princely states, sort of like Bhutan, that got integrated into India, and Indian government quietly knows, even if it might not say, that there could easily spring up national liberation movements that were based upon an ethnicity, a religion, or other sort of regionalisms, and could start to break up India, and India does not want that, and China could do that, and so India is worried about that, an indirect war. I don't really think they're worried about, Chinese tank divisions rolling down into India, but they're worried about this sort of indirect conflict stirring up troubles around, and they know that China will play the long game. So, we're going to war with India. Okay, we'll start now, and we'll spend 5 years figuring out who the people are in Sikkim or something that might be, the individuals who we might be able to, co-opt into our plan and start, getting them political and public notoriety in here. And then after 5 years of that, we'll spend 10 years of causing incidents of Indian imperialism into Sikkim up here, and then after 10 years of that, we'll do 10 years of guerrilla warfare. So they're looking at like a 30 or 40 year plan or something like this that China very well may be doing as just the first step in pushing and dismembering India. That very well, and they're very aware that China could do things like that, even though they may not say it. I don't think people realize. I don't think most U.S. State Department people. I've known a few people that have been in the State Department. They were some of my teachers, and in many ways they know much more than I do, because they were one of the guys that was in it. He was for a while working in the diplomatic staff in Greece, and then for a while, or vice versa, in the diplomatic staff in Turkey. And so he knows much more about whatever's going on there, but I don't think they understand these kinds of things, really. Most of the people. I'm sure there's some unpaid attention to somebody sitting in some basement that knows all this, but a lot of the real people don't know all this stuff. Okay. Gone on long enough. Carrier damage control, wasn't that what it was? Yes, carrier damage control. We'll let that continue. I know we've been sitting talking, but I'm okay. You guys, naval strike this region out here. Because we don't need to keep naval striking the one. Okay, you stop your carrier group. You stop. Here, intercept the region. Okay, I know this has gone on long enough. I want to thank you for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And, of course, love to hear your comments on any of the topics. I think I answered just about all replies, at least the ones I see. So, thanks so much. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.